This is a review on rounding part 2. The rounding rules are stated in this box that you see on the screen. If you have not watched the part 1 video, please go back and do that because it talks about place values and we need to know what the place values are before and after the decimal to be able to round correctly. So I'm going to go over these rules. Number 1, we're going to locate the given place value that we have to round to, and we're going to mark it with an arrow. We're going to underline the digit to the right of the place value. Then we're going to do a little bit of analysis. Is this digit less than or greater than 5? If the digit is less than 5, and I just want to point out this symbol, this means less than. What we're going to do is we're not going to change the digit in question, and we're going to keep that digit and just have zeros after the place value. If that digit is greater than or equal to 5, and this symbol here is greater than or equal to 5, that means that we're going to round up the digit in question that has the arrow over it, and then we're going to put zeros following that value. There is a note here, and we're going to see in the application problems that sometimes there's a scenario that requires you to ignore the rounding rules, and we're going to see that, like I said, in the application problems. But for now, we're going to follow the rules to the T. So let's look at the first one. Round 694,172 to the nearest 10 thousandths. I'm going to quickly rewrite this. So 694, 172. And I'm looking for the 10 thousandths value. The 10 thousandths is the value 9. 9 is in the 10 thousandths place. I'm going to look to the right of that. I see a 4. 4 is less than 5. So I'm going to leave the 9 alone. Okay? So this is going to look like this. 690,000, and that's that. Okay? So again, look to the right. If that number is less than 5, you're going to leave the number in question alone, and you're going to just put the zeros in the following place values. So let's look at the next one. We're going to round 82,752 to the nearest thousands. So the first thing is I got to figure out what digit is in the thousands position, and it's a 2. I'm going to look at the number to the right of it, which is a 7. 7 is greater than or equal to 5, so I'm going to add the value of 1 to the 2 that is in the thousands position. Okay, so 2 plus 1 is 3. So 83,000, and then I'm going to replace the rest of them with zeros. So this is an example where we rounded up. Okay, let's look at the next one. And I'm just going to put some lines here so we can see that this value goes with here. Okay, so we're going to round the digit 7,693,147 to the nearest millions. So the millions place value, the number 7 is in it. And I look behind it and I have a 6. 6 is greater than or equal to 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 1 to the 7 that's in the millions position. And if I add 1 to 7, I get 8. So this becomes 8 million. Notice I'm putting the zeros in as placeholders after that value. Okay, now we have one more of the whole numbers that we're going to be rounding. And we're going to round 3,158. So let me write that out. 3,158. And we're going to round it to the nearest hundreds. So I'm going to put an arrow over the 1, which is in the hundreds position. I'm looking for the digit behind it, which is a 5. Now 5 is greater than or equal to 5. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 1 to the 1 that is in the hundreds position. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So this becomes 3,200. Okay, so those are all examples of place values before the decimal. Now let's look at place values following the decimal. So we're going to round 63.66157 to the nearest tenths. So again, I'm just going to rewrite this 63.66157. I'm going to put an arrow over the value that's in the tenths position, which is the first 6 after the decimal. I'm going to underline the value that falls behind it, or the place value behind the tenths, which is the hundredths place. And I see a 6 there. Okay, 6 is greater than or equal to 5. So I'm going to add 1 to the first 6 after the decimal place. So 1 plus 6 equals 7. So this becomes 63.7, and then you can put the zeros following it, but you don't have to. So I can rewrite this as 63.7. Okay? Anything after the decimal place, you don't have to have those zeros following. You can, but you don't have to. So let's look at this next one, 63.66157, same number, but this time around I'm rounding to the nearest thousandths. Okay, so 63.66157, writing it out first. The thousandths positions is right here. That's the 1 is in the thousandths position. I'm going to underline the value that falls in the next place value, which is a 5. 5 is greater than or equal to 5, so I'm going to round up. So I'm going to add 1 to 1, because that's in the thousandths position. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So that becomes 63.662. Again, you can put the zeros following it, or we could write it out as 63.662. Okay, so let's do the next one. So the next one says same number. I'm going to write it down again, 63.66157. We're rounding this time to the nearest hundredths place. The second 6 is in the hundredths place. I'm looking behind it. That value is a 1. 1 is less than 5. So I am going to leave the 6 alone. Okay, we're going to leave it alone. So this becomes 63.66. And again, you can put those zeros in, or we can just rewrite this as 63.66. And finally, kind of ran out of some room here, do that. I'm going to round 63.66157 to the nearest whole number. So again, I'm just going to write this up. When the directions say to round to the nearest whole number, they mean that you got to look at the value before the decimal. Okay? So before the decimal is a 3. So let's go ahead and put an arrow above it. I do the same thing. I'm going to look at the value behind it. So rounding rules still apply. 6 is greater than or equal to 5. So I'm going to add 1 to the 3 that's in the nearest whole number position. So 1 plus 3 equals 4. So we get 64 point, and again, you can put 0, 0, 0. But when they say round to the nearest whole number, if you notice, I have nothing after the decimal. So I'm just going to rewrite this as 64. Okay? So if it says round to the nearest whole number, you look at the ones position, which is in front of the decimal. Look in the tenths position to see if you have to round that up or down. Okay? All right, so finally, now we're into situations that are real world. Robert computes the surface area of his kitchen and determines that he needs 3.2 gallons of paint the paint is only sold in 1-gallon buckets. How many buckets does he need to purchase? So if he needs 3.2 gallons and those paint buckets only come in 1-gallon increments, he's going to have to purchase 4 gallons of paint. So this is an example where the 3 was the whole gallon, right? And the 2 was in the tenths place, and 2 is less than 5, so we should leave it alone. However, if we're talking about paint, if he only buys 3 gallons of paint, he's not going to have enough to cover the surface area of his kitchen. So that's why he needs 4 gallons of paint. Okay, so let's talk about Serena here. Serena is sending holiday cards to her family this year. A single stamp costs 73 cents. How many stamps can she purchase for $8? Okay, so we got to divide this and see how many stamps we can get, first of all. So I'm going to do that. I would highly advise, getting your calculator out. So if you need to pause, go ahead. I am getting my calculator out on my phone, actually. So that's one place you can do this. We're going to take 8 and we're going to divide it by 0.73. Okay, so what I did was I took the $8 that she has and I divided it by 0.73. That's what 73 cents looks like, 0.73. And when you do that, I get 10.9589041. Okay? If she only has $8 and she can purchase, and I'm spelling stamps wrong, so let me fix that, guys. Stamps. Come on. She can purchase 10.95 of a stamp. Well, if she has only $8, she can actually only purchase 10 stamps. I can't round in this instance, even though 0.95 is pretty darn close to a whole stamp. If she only has $8, she can only get 10 stamps. Okay? Alright, so let's look at this last one. Angel is making her famous Tex-Mex breakfast casserole, but cutting the recipe in thirds. The original recipe uses 10 eggs. How many eggs will she need to buy from the market for her casserole? Okay, so if she has 10 eggs and she has to cut this recipe in thirds, I'm going to take 10 and divide it by 3 because I am doing this 10 times 1/3 of the recipe. So that becomes 10 over 3. So I'm going to divide this, 10 divided by 3. And when I do that, I get 3.33 repeating. How many eggs will she need to buy from the market? Well, I don't know about you, but last time I checked when I went to the marketplace, I don't have 1/3 of an egg that I can buy, unfortunately. So in this case, she's going to have to round up, even though if we did the rounding rules, we would say leave it alone. She needs to purchase 4 eggs in this instance. So all these little scenarios that we saw, Robert with his surface area of his kitchen, Serena with her holiday cards, and Angel with her famous Tex-Mex, is where the rules get broken. Okay? Thanks for watching. That's the end of how to round. If you have any questions, please reach out. Also, don't forget to do your homework. It's located in this week's module. All right, have a good one.